Hi, and welcome back to the second hour of this Wednesday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. You are listening to Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on conservative talk radio. Welcome aboard the USS Focal Point, our patrol boat in which we patrol the choppy waters of America's public life, looking for the coordinates where truth intersects with politics. Our commander is on the bridge. The scriptures are nautical charts, the Holy Spirit, our navigator, and I serve as your loyal, humble, and a cheerful first mate. Going to talk about Governor or General Petraeus here and this whole debacle in just a second, but let's grab one phone call. Let's go to Glenn, Amory, Mississippi. Glenn, thank you for calling, and thanks for waiting patiently. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go right ahead.
I appreciate your program. A comment right off the bat here, but I got a question too on that. Are you ready for the next 4 years? You went through a lot. I've been listening to you about 2 years, and I really appreciate AFA and the work that it did. And of course, we got 4 more years, I guess. But I wanted to make another comment, and I got a question. Heard John McCain today, which we all know this has been going on for a long time. John McCain said the president was lying, and we need to get a committee together similar to the Watergate committee to investigate all this stuff that's went on. And but he made that comment today, which I believe we need to do. Mm-hmm. All this brought out, everything brought out, and maybe we wouldn't have 4 more years. But anyway, my question I want to ask you was about the election. Do you have in front of you how Mississippi voted, like Democrat, Republican, Alabama, Louisiana, the southern states? Do you have some of that? What percentage Mississippi voted Republican and Democrat?
Well, I can get that for you. Let me see if I can grab that information for you. I know that in Mississippi, it was 54-44, and I think that's because Mississippi has a pretty substantial African-American population, and they voted, of course, 93% for President Obama. So a lot of those states in the South, you're going to have the results, the overall results, impacted by the fact that you had so many African-American voters in those states. So it is kind of striking, given that, how decisive some of the margins were in some of the southern states. I think in Mississippi it's about 54-44. Let's see, I got the chart open in front of me. You asked about Alabama. That was 61-38 for Romney. 61-38, that's pretty decisive. Let's drop down. Let's see what Arkansas was at, talking about the South. Arkansas was 61-37 for Governor Romney. Georgia was 53-45, again reflecting, I think, some of the makeup of the demographics. So anyway, that's a quick answer to your question.
More or less, didn't have a whole lot to worry about on the southern states, if I understand you correctly. What I thought about would have been a good idea. I don't know. Like I said, Mississippi, we didn't have too much to worry about, but in the other states where Obama had the majority, if I heard you say the other day talking about the evangelical voters, if more of them had voted Romney, regardless of his stand as far as a Christian or not, but if we had representatives, I believe, from each state, each county, organizing those churches, meeting, have a representative from each church, and getting behind this more, and informing the voter, the Christian voter, the evangelicals of those churches, of what we needed to do in each county of each state, I believe would have been more successful.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm sure you're right. And, the one caveat to all of this, Tim Wildman, who's the president of AFA, he said, look, he doesn't think you can lay this off on evangelicals, because evangelicals turned out in pretty substantial numbers. 79% of them voted for Governor Romney. Thanks, Glenn, for your call. I appreciate that. In fact, more evangelicals, 79% of evangelicals voted for Governor Romney. Only 78% of Mormons did. So evangelicals supported Mitt Romney to a greater degree even than Mormons supported Mitt Romney. That's one of the kind of striking results out of this election. But Tim's point is that evangelical voters are not evenly distributed throughout the United States. Now, my point was over 6 million evangelicals, about 6.5 by my calculations based on exit polling, about 6.5 million evangelicals found a way to vote for Barack Obama. Now, if just half of them had voted for Mitt Romney instead, that would have been a swing of over 3.2 million votes, and that would have given the popular vote to Mitt Romney. Now, we can't say for sure that it would give the electoral win to Mitt Romney. All we can say for sure is that the popular vote victory would have gone to Mitt Romney if just half of the evangelicals that voted for Barack Obama had voted instead for Mitt Romney. But if you got states like New York and California that are so overwhelmingly Democrat that even if you had that kind of swing vote in the evangelicals, even if you had that kind of vote switching going on, it's not going to make a material difference in the Electoral College. In fact, this is a sobering thing. This is a sobering thing about the Electoral College. And I don't say this to depress you, but it is just a reality that the Democrats are pretty close to having a complete lock on the Electoral College. Now, I support the Electoral College. I defend it. I think there's a brilliance to it. I think we've missed a key step in choosing electors. We can talk about that another time. So the Electoral College is not functioning as the founders intended for it to function. The way the founders intended for it to function is that what we would be choosing on November 6th is we would have chosen electors. We would not have chosen a president. We would have chosen electors. We would have picked people whose judgment we trust to go choose a president for us. I mean, that was the whole idea. It wasn't the voters who would choose a president. It would be the electors who would choose a president. So the campaign, we should have had 538 separate campaigns for electors. That's the only elected office I would ever be interested in, is being an elector. It's an office that lasts for about 6 weeks every 4 years. And you'd campaign on the ground, say, I think you can trust me to pick a president for you. Here's what I'm going to look for. I can't tell you who I'm going to pick, but I can tell you what kind of president I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick somebody with these values, this commitments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm asking for your vote to place in my hands your trust to pick the next president of the United States. That's the way the thing was designed to work. We wouldn't know who the next president was until the Electoral College met and the electors cast their votes. Now, that's the way it was intended to work, and I like that system. If there was a way to get back to what we ought to, we're never going to be able to get back there, but that's the way it was designed to work, and it was brilliant because they knew that when you allow the people themselves to choose their rulers, you get mob rule. You get what we got here. I mean, I'm not saying that Barack Obama is Adolf Hitler. Don't misunderstand me, but Adolf Hitler was elected by the German people. They elected Adolf Hitler in 1933. He came to power by the general popular vote. That's how he came to power. And the founders were trying to insulate us from that kind of mob rule, that kind of mob mentality. They knew how easily the mass of the people could be deceived, could be fooled. And that's why they said, look, what we want to do is we do not want to let the American people choose their own president. We want them to choose the people who will choose their president. Do you understand that? Founders said we don't want to let the American people choose their own president. Had too much room for mischief and deception. So we want the American people to choose the people who in turn will choose their next president. Now I want to come back and talk about the Electoral College. Just a second, stay with us. Focal Point AFR Talk.
Here's Twyla Brace.